And Jagat, this is going to be an interesting conversation. We keep talking about all these things for, I think, for the last 2 or 3 years now, since we have known each other, and it will be a good insight to have.
Absolutely.
And I see that we have a few people also joining in. So it's 4 o'clock on the dot. So it will always be impressive to start on time because that's what they say, right? In sales, the first thing that you got to do is be on time.
Sure.
So, first of all, a very good afternoon to everyone. We are going to be recording this, obviously, and I think it's also going to be on YouTube. And it is just going to be conversations and resources and insights all about sales. It has become so important today to be able to, bring your business to the next front. So, League of Extraordinary Startups, episode number 12, and it's hosted on the Whitford platform, which I am really kind of falling in love with for its simplicity of use. And having Jagat, the founder here, makes it even more interesting. So, Jagat, welcome. Absolutely delighted to be having this conversation. Sauce for sales. That's a nice topic. Of course, we are in India, so people will say it should be also about curry. It should also be about the tadka. It should be
Uniform.
about so many. It should be about so many things.
Yeah,
But we'll focus on this, right? Sales and what does it mean to you? Why is it so important for you to do it in the right manner, Jagat?
absolutely. I think fantastic. I think really nice to be on this platform. For those who are aware, LXS, we've been doing this as an initiative to kind of spread the good word, to basically be good people and do good things, right? So I think that's really why we started this. I'm really happy to be on this platform. Vijeta is your friend of, and also a friend of the ecosystem, and I think that's very important. Coming to sales, yes, I think this is a very relevant topic. We being a startup, I would say, in terms of Vitphone, of course, it is a we are a startup, and sales is, I think, what every startup today is really looking at, right? So not only sales, but as we go through this conversation, we'll talk about the whole customer experience and the customer journey, how things have changed really in the past few months, especially with the whole COVID situation. So I think happy to initiate in or if you want, Vijita, you kind of ask some throw some high balls at me. In terms of very quickly, I'll lay out some context into why, in the sense why I care about sales and why I'd like to have this discussion, and I'm sure for the benefit of the audience as well. It's been about 10 years that I've been running Every Crave as a company. We really started back in 2010, and then that's really, I would say, a long time ago. A decade is a long time in the ecosystem, but I think what I'd like to share here is not really to come and preach, but to share some of the learnings that I've had personally. Not to say that this is from some book or some thesis, but really out of my own experience and what has worked for me, what's not worked for me, and generally what we also discuss with other founders, right? So this will be mainly about sharing some of those sales hacks, if it were, and
Sure, sure.
happy to hear from you and others in the community as well. Give us some tips.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Jagat. See, sales is also, it's about being ethical, being professional, being on time. And they also say that, if you just go and especially in today's world where it's become more of remote, I mean, thanks to video conferencing and all these, wonderful platforms like Vidphone that exist, you have to use the new technologies, the new innovations, but a basic grounding cannot change. Okay, I mean, whichever way, even 5 years from now, 10 years from now, there are certain principles, there are certain ethics, and the way that we operate and the way we deal with people that should not change. So can we just talk about that angle first for the first couple of minutes, Jagat?
Absolutely. I think fundamentals are always, that's what they call fundamentals. And I think when we look at sales, my experience, I started my career in Dell, then I was at Aviva for a while. I was at other organizations, in infrastructure construction before we really got into digital and software. And at all points, we have been doing some kind of sales, right? It really depends on what we are selling. And I think that the fundamentals really lie the customer problem or the customer need. That's not going to change. And that's really the foundation of the whole customer experience, of which I would say sales is one part. The others being, let's say, marketing, customer support, other customer-centric external communication areas. So the main thing is that when the foundation or the need of the customer is still constant. Now the needs may vary. Different customers may have different, kind of wants. Someone might want a phone, but there might be someone who wants an Android, someone who wants an iPhone, and there's a lot of difference there. That's in the want. And but I think the way that we address, and so basically sales is nothing, or sales or marketing, it comes together to say the business is here to address certain customer needs, and that doesn't change. Of course, the mediums may change, the expectations may change, but the fact that that is being met is the core of business, and that doesn't change. So that, I think, is the root of the whole thing. When we look at how, for example, sales has evolved, let's say over the past decades. Initially, I think everything was face to face. Then, of course, you had things like a phone and email, all of these channels that made business a lot more possible. So today there is a sudden you would say expediting of the whole process with video. And I've always believed, and better than anybody else, from 2016 pretty much, that I had a lot of belief in video. I think when you look at all business purposes, video communications, video chat, conferencing, webinars, these solve all the needs of of business communication. Yes, there might be an aspect where you want a physical in-person meeting, but that, I think, the proportion, I wouldn't say that it's going to die away. That's going to become, there's going to be a premium on that, right? So that's really how, it's just a degree of change. I wouldn't say that it's a 0 or 1, right? There's always a big shades of gray, and that's how we like to operate a lot of times. Things are not binary, and that's that's where I think it's going to be constant, in that these things will remain. Trust, need, price, all of these things are very, very important. These are not going to change, but the way it's delivered and the expectations are changing.
Fantastic. And Jagat, I think you have prepared a few slides also for later on. I would just like to talk about one thing that, see, I have been working with hospitality, with retail industry, NASSCOM, and now, of course, more than a year with the TIE Bangalore chapter. And I know you have also prepared some small slides for our audience. Do you want to start talking about it now or a little bit later? I leave that to you. I also want to talk to you. Yeah, you have something ready, or do you want to do that later?
I have it ready, but I'm happy to take a couple of open things before we get into the couple of slides.
Okay, understood. Got it. Perfect.
1 second.
That's absolutely fine, Jagat. And guys, I would love to hear some comments about the audience also. Sales is not easy, and sometimes you're on the other side when people are trying to sell to you. That is also not very comfortable or easy. And there are so many stories about how people were being made to wait for hours together. And Indian customers, they also particularly say that they never say no. They keep making you wait, and trying to sell to, say, educational institutes, the influencer decision makers, or the main people never ever either come to you, or they take a very, very long time. So how does one handle all these kind of situations? Because you've got to be very tough also, right, while doing sales, because you have to be able to handle pressure from the top. You have huge sales targets. As founders, it gets even more tougher, because you also have investors chasing you down. So what is all this twerks and things that go around that?
Right. I think when you look at sales in India, definitely, maybe one would say that there is a difference in, let's say, the word maybe professionalism, right? And I think it's from both sides, both buyer and seller, right? Maybe when you look at deals, probably with Europe or US, where we have done some in the past, and we will continue to do, and we're also doing it now. But yes, it's a lot more binary, right? It's either yes, no. Let's respect each other's time, really. I wouldn't even say that in India we don't respect the time. It's just stretchable. It's just like a lot of things. It's just, we take things for granted. But that, I think, is changing. Overall, so basically this is a function of what people really think of as their, what I would say, their value, right? Their self-worth in terms of their own time. And when you look at the US, with, average per capita income, probably 68 to 70,000 US dollars is the per capita, I think. I mean, I'm not very sure. But something around that. India, we're probably at around 3,000-4,000 USD per capita. So it's a huge 20 plus difference. So that is the core of everything. The moment the individuals there, I mean, even if you look at, let's say, blue collar workers, remote workers, other, allied workers, they're not, as the word would be, I would not say cheap, but the hourly rate is quite low. I mean, it's still quite high, right? And I think these things really matter. The moment Indians put a really high value on their time, and that's really the fundamentals of professionalism. And I think once that happens from both buyer and seller, I think we'll see that happen. But I think it's fair. Sometimes we don't like things also to kind of have hard stops, and we have our own quirks. So I would say sometimes it's good. But at the end of the day, we have to move towards valuing each other's time a lot more. No doubt about it.
Yes. So I mean, it always works both ways, right, Jagat? The people who are being sold to will say like, "Hey, man, value my time as well." So it's not easy. It's not going to be difficult at any point of time. But yes, I guess video conferencing tools, having the right content in terms of engaging the buyer is something that the sales professionals must work on.
Absolutely. I
And
think
I'm
absolutely. I think. Sorry.
yeah. Please, Jagat, carry on. You were saying
No,
something.
I completely agree. I think the ways that we engage is really important. Now, when you look at sales, it's part of this whole external customer communications journey, right? And that's really what I always come to. It's not about, in the olden days, there was a scarcity of information. So they had the whole concept of a big billboard or a thing saying, hey, bam, bam, here's this new hotel or here's this new event. It's to give you information. When you didn't have that information, that was the point of advertising. Today, we live in a world where there is just an absolute, like, there's an overdose of information. I'm like, shut up. Right? That's why we move towards curation. Curation is probably a polite word to say, get rid of all the, noise and just give me the signal. But right, and that's the way really I look at it. So today we are in a world where we call it the attention economy, and we really say that attention is the new oil, not data. I think the day of data is probably over. It might come as really shock to a lot of technology people, but I really believe that the days of data are kind of moving away fast. It's becoming more and more into attention, right? We're in an attention economy. Attention is the new oil. And when we live in this kind of an economy, what that consumer is seeing of your brand, of you, I think the way they see it, they have a different lens altogether today, right? Compared to 10, 15 years ago, even 5 years ago. So that's like the whole change. The fact that the customer need still exists. Today I was, also, as you know, I've been, caught up with a few personal things, and I had some, discussions, and I realized that certain segments of product and service, there is, unparalleled demand. There's kind of demand today, be it with pharma, be it with respect to, study, work from home kind of furniture and things like this. There has been unprecedented demand. But of course, some of the other things, maybe oil and other businesses, would be under a bit of issue. But overall, I think the way that this customer experience is being delivered is moving away from this hard, advertising to marketing to sales to support kind of silos to becoming an integrated, holistic customer experience. What we always talk about a lot of times, it's like the flywheel.
Yeah, the flywheel. Yes, absolutely.
Discuss that, because I think that's something that it's a holy grail that you kind of we discuss on. But we probably happy to just share the model very, very briefly, right? I'm sure you're
sure. So, no, you must do that, Jagat, because it's
end of the day. It really comes down to the way that we have looked at sales. Sales has always been about, let me try and take the cash before I deliver the value as much as possible. Okay. And I think there is a flip in that model today, because we're moving from this industrial economy to this knowledge economy today. And as I say a lot of times, unlike money, which if I give you 10 rupees, I am poorer by 10 rupees. But with the knowledge economy, if I give you X, I am not poorer by X. The whole world is richer by that X. And that changes the dynamics of business. That changes the way we look at giving and taking, product and service, value itself. So I think that's really the roadmap for how business is going to look in the next 10 years.
Okay. No, that's very interesting, Jagat, because I like the few consider what we're talking about, the customer experience. So even when the sales process is going on, it's an experience. You should not make it very shoddy and difficult, uninteresting, and without value for the person, that irrespective whether they convert into a customer or not, make the experience pleasant, delightful, satisfying, enriching, helpful. I mean, those things you should not ever forget. I think that's what is coming out from our conversation out here. Very interesting.
Absolutely.
Jagat,
very interesting. Very interesting, Vijeta. You mentioned the word, this whole conversion. And the way I look at life and the way I look at even business, today it's not a binary situation. You're not my customer, you're my customer, right? That's, I think, the whole point is that we as an organization, and we have always treated the business this way, we're an organization that keeps shooting out value. Now, how much value we give, or who is the audience, and how kind of polished is that value, determines what the kind of monetary benefit that the company gets and at large society gets. So that, I think, is a flip in the model, right? It's not that, hey, I have zero and then suddenly I'm selling something at X. It's not like that. You're a business, and a business is nothing but a group of people. I take the word company sometimes very literally. And it is actually built that way. A company is literally the company of people. It's your directors, your shareholders, your executive staff, your company. And so the value of that, especially when it comes to technology businesses, this is not with mechanical or asset heavy businesses, with technology businesses, where knowledge businesses, where the people are really most important. And we must understand the people are the ones who are getting better every day. And as that gets better, the value that the organization also can deliver in a knowledge company is more, right? So I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but that's the way we kind of look at it. And that's really the foundation of the new model that we are kind of talking about.
Yeah, fantastic. And so, Jagat, I mean, look, let's also talk about the slightly negative part of it. How often have you failed in your journey of trying to convert a customer in the last 5-10 years of doing this? And a few learnings of what you could have done better in hindsight.
But how much time do you have?
So that'll take a few days to talk about.
Maybe a few years. But anyway, so bottom line is, I think with any kind of serious outcome driven stuff, be it sales, running a company, a lot of these things, right, where you're looking to build something before you see the result.
Yeah.
As opposed to where I'm seeing the result and then I'm kind of taking a guess, where the risk also is a lot less. So in this kind of, obviously with sales is a fairly high risk business. Whether you're a businessman or you're a sales executive, your numbers are generally you're going to get more no's than yeses. But the good thing is that a few yeses is all you need. And that's the more important part. It's the quality of the yeses and what they do to you, as opposed to the quantity of the no's or the yeses. Obviously, as you get better, you fine tune the product, the offering, the customer development happens more. I think that proportion would get better. But generally, the number of people visiting a website versus number of people signing up, number of cold calls done versus conversions, number of meetings to conversions. So all of these, you will see that the denominator is significantly higher and the numerator is kind of small. So, but yes, short answer is a lot. And what have we learned? So I think there is only one single learning from a lot of this, at least from my point of view, and that has always been as today we do. We look to deliver the value, and we let the market decide whether they actually we close the sale or not. So the value is constant. The value generation is constant. What is the monetary benefit or the monetary impact for the customer is, I think, what changes. Like even if you look at, we have done in the past, high ticket transactions where it's to do with a particular company, some of the largest companies in the world, where we have worked with digital transformation projects from 2012, 13, 14. One of the most important things, those are high ticket value, and you're really delivering high hourly kind of rates. And the most important thing there is that here, and we also sell low ticket items, product size, right? 900 a month, 1,000 a month, 3,000 a month. The question is really how much, what is the kind of factor there? And that, I think, comes down to really the core of how we approach this whole sales model.
Okay, interesting. Very interesting, Jagat. Jagat, it's now 15 minutes into the conversation, almost 20. You can pull up your slides because we should share this with the audience.
Absolutely. So very, very short, right? And we just want to just share my screen. And
no, these are resources, and this is something that I have also been pushing you, that I want founders to share the real resources with the audience, because look, you guys go through this every day.
Yeah.
Okay. And failures, successes, disasters, everything. So let's go for it.
So this,
I also want to.
This would just be a couple of slides where.
Yeah, sure.
Want to talk too much about just Vidphone, but the reason we have to mention Vidphone is not just because I'm the founder or the CEO, but more importantly, yes, video. Today we're living in what we call a video first world, and secondly, this is really a culmination of a lot of the learnings that we have, right? So it's just articulated in this product. So it's not about whether it's a XYZ video communications product, but it's more about what we have learned and how we can articulate it in an actionable way for our customers. So very quickly, this is really the crux of the whole thing, right? We live in today, it's no more about BC and AD, right? It's really about, I would say, pre-COVID and post-COVID. I would say, that's really how we have defined, because it's bigger than the Great Depression. The last person I was talking to told me that, an average pandemic, probably 25 years. The smallest pandemic was probably 6 years. And anybody telling me that next year things are going to be okay is probably dreaming. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Why would you call it a pandemic, right? It's not a disease or an outbreak.
Yeah.
So we have to prepare for some long-term cleansing and long-term sustainable ways of doing things. So, of course, today we say that disruptive new video-first digital business models across sectors.
Yes.
Really the need of the hour. And every word I think there is important. It's disruptive because it's happened overnight. We've always thought startups are disruptive, the products we build, but here is nature being disruptive, right? And that's
correct.
Does its thing. And a lot of inspiration to gain from what's happened.
Yes.
And video first, because social isolation or social distancing, whatever you may call it, end of the day, it means that physical in-person meetings, travel, B2B, wine and dine systems, are off the roof. The best you can do is probably a VidPhone party or a Zoom party, or with a mug of beer for those who drink.
Yeah.
And of course, digital business models, right? These are not brick and mortar. These are clearly not anything that's been done before, because typically you would see that consumer internet and SaaS companies have digital business models, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't think of a furniture business or and I'm not talking of your startups, like 2 or 3 of them who are in the furniture e-commerce space, but I would talk of a traditional furniture shop or a traditional kirana store. All of them today are thinking digital, and that's the only way going. That's what I mean by becoming mainstream, right? It's not about 5 or 10% of that sector doing it digital. It's about 100% of that sector doing it digital, not by something they wanted to do, but it's like necessity is the mother of all invention, and you have to today do it, right? And it's across sectors. This may be today limited to what we call the knowledge economy. Video conferencing and webinars are typically with, you would say, IT and knowledge-centric professional services kind of professions. But I definitely see it moving into every single sector, be it mechanical, be it agriculture, be it somebody who's a carpenter, be it, a gardener, be it a vegetable vendor. Every single unorganized kind of profession today is going to be organized through video. And that's
correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So I always like to look at this in a very, very holistic way, because this is our learning from, about 10 years of dealing with, businesses and ourselves, kind of dealing with the kind of challenges. It's really about what does the customer think over a period of time, and that's how we need to look at it. Typically, a campaign will be something short term. I do an email blast, or I do a above the line advertising. These things I think are very, very short term ways to look at it. Brands are built over a lot of time and multiple experiences with the product and the customer, in multiple interactions. So we need to think of brand and sales and everything more in a holistic way that way, right? What's happened, I think, overall, and many of you would agree, is that there has been a big focus towards the short-term benefits overall, be it from the startups, be it from businesses, be it from people, because again, we are in this instant gratification mode. And I think that's a big cleanse. That's not sustainable, as simple as that. Sustainability simply means not instant gratification in a very loose way. So today we are moving towards that sustainability. Right. So this integrated, holistic customer experience becomes the focus for us. Because today the question is not about video conferencing, where I'm talking to, let's say, my colleagues, or, video conferencing is a done deal. It doesn't matter whether you're on Jio or you're on Airtel, or your phone call. Or it doesn't matter on email if you're on Gmail, on Rediff, or Hotmail. Or it doesn't matter if you're on Zoom or Skype, or whether you're on, Google Meet or whatever, or VidPhone. End of the day, what matters to us today is the business making money? Is the customer happy? These are the only 2 things that really matter. And this is done by the whole customer external communications focus. So video first in terms of marketing. Today, marketing has become equal to webinars. I probably wouldn't be too far away in saying that statement, because a while a company would do a webinar and it would stand out in your inbox. Today, if you look at your email inbox, it's just flooded. Right? It's almost
flooded. It's flooded.
Right? And a typical email marketing message is a webinar. That's obviously a default. But what matters today is the moment you reach a particular, once you land in a territory, you need to expand in that territory. So we look at webinars, and now we look at how can webinars really help your business. Right? It's not just about conducting these webinars or having people of repute there, but it's really about how can this technology help your customer every day or whenever they use it, because everything, customer comes at the center of everything today.
Yeah.
Look at sales, for example. As you know, with video conferencing, all the meetings are, in-person coffee day or your Leela Palace meetings have completely stopped, right? And everything happens over the video platform. So the question today is not, shall we have a video conference? It's about, can a customer today talk to me in video with a click of a button? Is that, am I doing this through any platform? And that's something that we really work on, because if you look at any platform today, you have what we call temporary IDs, right? You have a meeting link. Every video conference has to be preceded by an email or a WhatsApp link, and that's absurd. You don't do that for email or phone. Yeah. So there are some, at a philosophical level, you need to change. There's basically a permanent video ID and some things there. I look at customer support or, customer service. This is, really the holy grail, I think, for every business, right? It's not really about getting a customer once or converting them once, but really keeping them happy such that not only they buy again, they buy more and they refer it to more people, and they form this big vicious cycle for you. A vicious cycle. So let's assume that you got this really bad product from Amazon and you're not happy with it. And let's assume that, we lived back in the call center day where you could call up the call center and really let out your frustrations on that, on how you felt about the product. Let's just assume that instead of that phone call, it was a video call. And you actually saw that person at the other side and he saw you and you could show the product. And I think that changes the way, an irate customer in a customer support terminology, irate customers are really high priority kind of items. They de-escalate and they become a lot more, the conversations become a lot more, I would say, moderate. And I think it has an extremely positive influence on a brand, right? Not only when they do good things, but more importantly, when something goes wrong. And I think that's really important. And when you look at support, when in many cases today, let's say that there is a problem in my house, I need a plumber, or I need a carpenter, or I need let's say I want to check my car on a service, or I need insurance and they want to check my claims, they want to check the status of the car after the accident, etc. Before it required all physical meetings. Now, all of that will be done by video. There is only one way. That's if these businesses want to thrive and move forward. So, of course, they're going to all come towards video. So that's how customer support changes. So once we do this, once we're able to attract customers, once we're able to convert them into paying customers, and then you're able to provide this superior customer support, we call it this holistic customer experience centered around live video, right? And that's, I think, one of the ways that we feel things will go forward. Of course, there could be various other models, but this is our kind of approach on this, right? And kind of sum up very quickly on 3-4 things, high level, and then happy to discuss more. The main thing, as I said, is a video identity. Now, we all know that security is a big challenge when it comes to video communications, right? We don't know whether when you're on other platforms, whether your data is being analyzed. Many times you'll notice this, and I've noticed this personally. You have a video chat with somebody on a personal note, and you may have an ad coming, to you on one of their platforms. It happens a lot. It's not coincidental. It at least doesn't seem coincidental. And the root of all that is video identity. And the moment you have a video identity, like a permanent video number or an address, like a phone number or an email address, you immediately handle security at the authentication level. And that's the most important. It's not about which encryption I use or how secure is my app after I download it, or things like this, or the codecs. Really what matters is at the authentication level, is the problem solved? So I think this is number one. We look at building it on an open standard, right? You're on the browser, anybody can call you, things are open. We don't have an ad-based model. So I think these are elements of a secure video communications ecosystem. Secondly, we look at, let's say, webinars, SDKs, and integrations. Now, the point is not whether you use video conferencing or webinars, but how is this integrated into your business workflows, right? I think that really matters. How is the salesperson able to use video in his processes, in his existing process of talking to his customers? Or let's say, how are we able to schedule appointments at the same time, be able to have a single video link that both of them can go to? Or let's say, integrating a live chat widget onto your website, from where a customer who's interested in your product, clicks on it and actually, is able to talk to your support or your sales team. Can you have a designated TV channel Can you have your own rooms that is personal to you? So today we don't click on links as many people on Vidphone who use the platform know. People we just say we'll meet in my room, right? And my room is vidphone.me/room/Jagat, and everybody can have their own room. And I think that becomes a lot more easier, right, than someone randomly guessing a link or clicking on a link. And I think these are elements that make it more part of the existing workflows. The third is what we look at, what we call Vidphone Universe. And I just want to talk a little bit about this and our initial view and how we kind of want to build this ecosystem. Today, of course, we're talking about not only the remote economy, but now with the remote economy, you need remote companies that operate 100% remote. And the question is, offices and workplaces were built with certain thought process and certain processes, right? And I think that changes today. Of course, already we hear from so many people that there is a kind of burnout sensation, a feeling of a burnout, because everyone is working almost all the time. There's very little gap between the home and the office. In fact, there was a joke where somebody said, just give me a minute, I'll be in my office. I said, the office is just is my hall, it's my living room, and I'm in my bedroom. So, so I think the foundation of this, we need this new company outlook where people sitting in their homes can contribute value, where they're aligned in terms of
absolutely.
That's the core at which that's one of the important ideas of the Vidphone universe, right? So we want to help, not only help, we want to partner, we want to co-create, collaborate with people who may be students, who may be at home, who may have some skills, who may also be part of other organizations in a full-time capacity, but they want to kind of contribute into this whole video first platform that we have. So that's Vidphone universe. I think it's going to be very exciting. It's a volunteer driven work, obviously. This is not a network where we want to have, let's say, employees or this whole boss and employee kind of culture. This is a new economy, a new company culture driven by volunteering. But at the same time, I would say that though the volunteers and come at time and their own will, we as a company obviously want to incentivize them, be it financially and otherwise, to so that it's basically to honor their efforts and their commitments toward what we do, right? So I think it's going to be a really, really exciting initiative, Vidphone Universe, that we're doing. Along with that, a part of it is also what we call Vidphone Hustle. Obviously, today, a lot of people are struggling with, I would say financial, difficulties, challenges, or at least over the next 1 or 2 years, things are going to be quite hard. So what we thought is, how do we kind of platformize revenue sharing? How do we platformize, value sharing? So people can join in or plug into the Vidphone Hustle system. This is only for channel partnerships, right? So this is different from Vidphone Universe, where it's more generic and volunteer-led. So here, of course, you have certain NDA with us, you have a memorandum of understanding with us, and we have a revenue sharing where people can just plug into our system, use all of our training and our sales training, our collaterals, our product, our whole product, and the distribution strength, and basically benefit and make an income for themselves. I think that's really important in India today, if we need to really work at increasing the per capita and making our economy a lot more stronger. So I think these are the important kind of aspects that I wanted to kind of discuss. I'm happy to discuss more on the future roadmap, both in terms of product and market. That's about what I have for now.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you so much, Jagat. I think that's so incredibly important. Love the fact that, as a founder, you're also looking at the community part. You're definitely looking at how you can help other founders. I mean, we first met, of course, at the NASSCOM, warehouse, and when I was part of the Center of Excellence, and we used to always have our conversations. There were so many other founders. Touch wood. I mean, it's so hard. I just love it when I get these updates from them that we got more customers, we have got expansion, we have added to our team. It makes me feel personally also very, very good. Okay, and believe me on this, Jagat, sales has become such an important thing at TiE as well. We have been doing a lot of stuff on B2B sales, enterprise sales, and I think, very surprisingly, a lot of these conversations do dovetail about, yes, video conferencing is very critical, building relationship, gaining the trust of your potential client or customer. So what are the couple of tips that you could give in terms of that, right? You gain trust. that the customer says that, okay, these guys care. They will help me not just for a transaction, but they want me to grow my business. So a couple of very quick, and precise insights around that, the trust factor.
Well, talking about trust cannot be so precise, but overall, it's a feeling. And what I would say is, today when we look at our ecosystem, I will talk about video conferencing, video communications. A lot of the negative antitrust related, issues happening in the US, and this is very significant. It really shakes the consumer's belief in high quality technology companies. Many of them not billions of dollars market cap, $1 trillion. In fact, I just read that Apple crossed $2 trillion market cap.
Yeah, I can't calculate that, Jagat. It's okay.
Sorry?
I said I can't calculate that. It's okay.
No, not can I. I just read the stuff. So, do not believe. Today, now Apple is the largest company on the planet. Before, it was actually Saudi Aramco. And it's staggering. When you saw Apple as a $1 trillion company, Saudi Aramco, the whole conversation about them going public, which I think didn't happen, they were valued at about $2.7 trillion or $2 to $2.73 trillion. Was Saudi Aramco, biggest company in the world by far. Now, because of the whole oil mess over post-COVID, the share price of Aramco is really down, but Apple's gone up. And today, Apple is the largest company on the planet, including all companies, and that's unbelievable. These are all $1 trillion companies.
Yeah.
And when antitrust becomes like the biggest focus point for the US government against these companies, and look at the contribution of what they do. Let's say US, I don't know, I've not checked the numbers, but maybe a $20 trillion economy, my rough guesstimates. Now, if you look at Apple plus the large FAGMA, or Facebook, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Apple, Netflix, probably anywhere between $5 to $6, $7 trillion. Now that's 30%, 20 to 30% of the US GDP, which is huge, right? Now, the whole question of trust is under question. So the way we look at it is we are trust first. And trust is not an afterthought. And that's reflected in our business models. Now, I think when you look at business models driven around how can we look into the consumer's data and data mine, this gives a bad feeling for customers. They don't like it. They like to be left alone. They like to do their thing, not be snooped on as a default. Security settings are not things I must come and set as options, right? They are defaults. And I think when we change that, the way we look at things, which again is centered around differentiated business models, where we're moving away from advertising led or data selling based business models at a very high level towards things of value, where it could be a profit share, it could be a value based pricing model where, when the customer benefits, we charge the customer, which is what we do many times, as you well know, and many customers know. We have disruptive pricing models where we say, we take nothing from you up front. We know that you are pioneering a business model and we want to support that and genuinely support that, because we have selfish interest also in that, because that kind of templates it for us. But apart from the selfish motive, we really focus very hard on supporting entrepreneurs. And you know that with the way we work with LXS, other startup founders. And we do this value-based pricing model, where really it's about if you benefit from this model is when you will be charged for it. Else it costs us nothing. We bear the cost of our technology non-innovation. And when we kind of put that kind of price on what we do, I think it leads to brilliant levels of trust and comfort between people. And you know better than anybody else with your past in NASSCOM. Of course, I also want to take a minute to, loud shout out to all the NASSCOM 10K founders. I think NASSCOM has been a wonderful place. I just hope that post-COVID as well, that NASSCOM, TIE, all of these fantastic organizations who really support entrepreneurs, right? And a really big shout out and thanks to all of them, and gratitude and nothing else, for such amazing work that they put in consistently. It's not that they were just there for 2 years and they disappeared. And that's the beauty of it. So these are institutions that help people, and I genuinely want to thank them. So I think once we look at models that are give first and take later, trust becomes a given. Trust is default. That's the shift we are seeing, and I think we agree on that. And of course, it's a tough road. I wouldn't say that it's an easy road. The easier road is to go and what they call hustle. Get out 1,000, 10,000, 1 lakh, 2 lakhs, and then you offer. It's the easy road, yes. But is it sustainable? Is it ethical? These questions, really arise.
Interesting. And Jagat, I would like to also say that those founders are so amazing at the NASCOM Center of Excellence. Upstairs on the fifth floor, I think we used to have this IAMA guys. Then we used to all catch up, right? So often we used to meet people. I mean, I can't forget people. The Vitor Health guys, Kalyan from 5C Networks, all these wonderful folks who used to hustle all day, right? I mean, and they've been growing. They've been growing very steadily. So I'm also very fortunate that at Type Bangalore, I get to meet these amazing startup founders. They don't give up, right? They're realistic. They definitely have a passion and vision to grow and do so many wonderful things for India and global expansion. And that's what really matters. Okay, that's what really matters. Jagat, the books that you read, who are your coaches and mentors?
That's a great question. I think, in fact, I was watching a video some time ago, and I came across this saying that, in fact, what you said is kind of contrary, because of course, Kalyan, friends of ours at NASCOM, Milind. If I start naming it goes into a long list.
Yeah, long list.
NASCOM, TIE, I would say other organizations, EOCares, or other organizations. A lot of them do not actually sustain. And that's the reality of startups. 90% of them fail in 1 year, or 95 fail in 2, 3, whatever may be the details. But the majority of companies shut down in 3 to 4 years. That's the hard truth. Now, those who sustain, or those who have in fact, I've met a lot of people who tell me, Jagat, I did this thing, and with all due respect to them, I also ran a business, and I just asked them, how long were you running it? Said 9 months. What happens in 9 months? I mean, look, an average schooling takes you 16 years. College takes you, pre-university takes you 2, and then 4 engineering, and 9 months to sustain your life and business is, I would say, optimistic. So yes, a lot of people quit early, and that could happen at 1 year, 2 years, for various reasons, and much respect to all of that. But as they say, quitters never win. And as they also say, winners never quit. And I think there's a fundamental rule to entrepreneurship. You cannot quit. At least this is what I have learned. And look at most companies. We may think that Google or Facebook is a young company. Well, Facebook's 2004. 16 years old.
Yeah, 16 years old.
Google's 96 probably, right? 24. 24 years is a long time.
Yeah.
So is Apple, 80s or something like that. So it takes time to build institutions, and that's very important. A lot of the people that we said, really, I've been there for a longer time. I think that helps, because the quality of companies and the quality of products that you ship also keep improving. And many times, like with knowledge, it's an exponential increment. You may do 5 years or 5 months or whatever, X amount of time, you may kind of be doing something. But that 5+1 time period, or T+1, T+2, you have exponential learning and exponential implementation of what you have learned. So what you learn from 3-4 areas, it'll kind of accumulate and compound. I believe in that. And I think that way is great. So what I read, and my mentors and gurus, well, to be very honest with you, as I was saying, most of these businesses fail, and you ask them, who taught you business, or where did you learn business? So that's a very important question. Most people start a company, obviously, without learning business. Some people are fortunate to work under a wonderful CEO or a founder or a director and work with them at close quarters and learn what is it to take risk at a little higher level. And that's really what business is. But there are also many people who, and when I started, I also was, I would say, part of that ecosystem where we started, because there is no school of entrepreneurship in India. There are B schools, but you learn, what you learn in B school is you learn case studies of large companies of certain verticals. You don't learn how to bootstrap a company from 0 to million or etc. Right? So nobody really learns this, except, let's say, the business communities in India could be like the Bania community or the Marwari community, Guptas probably, where they go to the shop when they're in school and they learn the trade really by doing it. That's a huge system, and it's that's very core to the whole class of what in the old days they would call Asia, for example.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The trading class. It was because they were trained in that skill, and that's the root of our whole, the way that India was, and that's the reason we were the largest company in the world by far. in 1 AD and 1000 AD, we were accounting for 25% of world GDP. Today we account for 2% of world GDP, if not give or take 1%. There's a huge decline. 25% of world GDP is not a small number. We were the richest company in the world by far, or the country in the world by far.
So
right?
Jagat, you should also talk about this one thing. You also you raised some angel investment, and you have done it over with phone calls. So tell the founders that, right? How do they sell themselves and their products and their company and still manage to raise money? And because investors keep saying, we need to see you, look into your eyes, have a cup of coffee or a beer with you, or those kind of stuff. But you managed to do some things just using video conferencing. So how did it work? I mean, how did the investors prepare, and what were the kind of questions that came your way? If you can share a few things, not too confidential, but I think those crisp insights would help also.
So happy to share some details. We don't talk too much about our fundraising, as you know, but yes, about a few months ago, we closed a round of investment from some high net worth and former from entrepreneurs and senior level executives from companies including Google, KPMG, EY, from Harvard, other large companies, Tesco and others. And yes, we did close the whole round with this syndicate on Bitphone. I'd never met more than 20% or 30% of the syndicate before we raised the money, and it was an extremely insightful time for me. Of course, you asked me that about the selling aspect. Again, we were not selling. In fact, the show story is that I was at a demo day kind of event at one of the places, and that's when Shiva Shinaswamy, who's engineering director at Google, met me, and he was he was saying, are you looking for money? And I said, of course, and we'd love to talk because we really like to engage. I said we take the word company very, very seriously, and these are very, very serious people. And we learn a lot from associating with them. So then, of course, one thing led to the other, and we connected with a lot more people. Eventually, it became 10 people on the syndicate, and all of them extremely knowledgeable and respectable people in the ecosystem.
Yeah, correct.
That's most important. So I think the fundamental thing there was again about trust, and there is an unsaid kind of relationship or a vibe that is there, right? And of course, it translates into business result. The moment we raise external money, I knew from day one, and we know it every day, that as an entrepreneur, the moment you raise money, you are at all times committed to your shareholders, whether you raise or not. And I bootstrapped for 9 years before I raised a small amount of money. And end of the day, bottom line is, you as a CEO or as a managing director, your job is to deliver value to your shareholders. Yes, you do, but that's not what you say. That's not what you work at. What you work at is delivering more value. And as I said, the more refined and the more polished the value becomes, the revenue is impacted. I'll give you an analogy with golf. For example, you want to get closer to the pin. The end result is that the ball should be more closer to the flag. But how you're going to do that is not by just thinking about that. It's by working on your grip. It's by working on your flow, on your action, on moving the body weight forward, hitting the ball down. And these are the things that deliver the result. So for us, that's like critical. And I think when you look at how to raise a round, small or big, I think what's important is that trust is fundamental. But yes, video conferencing helps, and especially when you have something like Bitphone, where it's an open platform, the investors or people, stakeholders themselves, just click on a link, they come inside, have a good experience. It's great. And it also, I used to say, it looks like Republic TV, right? And who doesn't like Republic TV?
Yeah, a lot of energy in that in those channels, isn't it, Jagat? Okay, fantastic.
No, I wouldn't comment much, but yeah, the look and feel.
I know. So Jagat, see, we always should talk about, yes, we are in India and we have to look at global expansion. So in terms of your experience, you might have spoken to a lot of people from different cultures, from different corporate founders with just 5 people. I think we were talking also about yoga trainers and coaches. For them also, this is a very critical platform that they can very easily use. It's much more lower priced, though I should not say that only pricing makes a difference. But can you just quickly run through, because I'm also interested, right? I love that rooms concept, that widget in your website concept and all that, right? So very crisply, because we don't want to make, of course, we decided that we never make this into a sales conversation. But these are some tools, that you should talk about, digital tools that entrepreneurs and gig economy can use. Can you just quickly talk about those couple of things, please?
Right. So I would just say two things. When you look at the gig economy or the remote economy, it's basically being able to work from anywhere, anytime. And that's, in fact, one of the mission statements, or not a mission statement, you would say like a mantra for Vidphone itself, which is live and work anywhere, anytime with Vidphone. And the fundamental to that, I would say, number one is, of course, I would only say two things. One is internally, and I would say externally. Internally, of course, if you are part of the gig economy, understand that everybody is today part at some level of the gig economy. And internally, when I say, it means that you need to upgrade your skill set, which I think is very important. You cannot go out there, I think, and be available in the marketplace as a substandard service provider or product. This is number one. So I think you need to really look inside and work on the core a lot and become the best at what you do. Right? Aim to be the 1% of whatever field or whatever vertical vocation that you choose. One second.
So this is also happens during a call. Jagat is saying bye to someone.
No, because I was just, as you know, I'm just here for a brief time and then I'm heading out.
Yeah, correct.
Things. So anyway, as I was saying, the first is internally, where this gives everybody a time to work on their core strengths, right? You save a lot of time on commute, you save a lot of these things. So one is to really work on your core vocation, whatever it might be. And the second, I think, aspect to the gig economy, one, of course, being you, and the second is who you are, where you are, which today, having a website, having a social presence, being on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, etc. These are no more, as you said, as we discussed, kind of nice to haves. These are must haves. And like you had an offline office, you have to have a website today. Before it might be an option, but today it's not an option. Now, once you have this website and you have the social digital footprint, what we call, now that you really have your presence out there. But more than presence, the next step is really communication. You need to communicate with your customers. Now, that's where I think what we are building is relevant to the economy, where, be it with respect to, as I said, marketing, for example, we have a module called TV, where we believe that content creation should be as easy as going live. Like you click a button and you're creating content. Because people say content is king, and it's always a challenge for a lot of organizations to create high quality content. Before it was about blogs or images or creatives. Today it's really about video, and it's not about YouTube recorded post-produced videos. It's really about raw live videos. What's the founder doing? What's the security guard doing? It's really about that. It's how authentic and original can we be. So originality is really important. That's why we have TV, where let's say you're a XYZ brand, you can just directly link our webinar system into your website. So you're driving all of this traffic into your own website as opposed to a third-party application. So whatever third-party app you use, you're actually driving away your traffic into their platform. So while Facebook or Zoom or Google Meet is saying our average time per user spent is getting more and more, you, on the other hand, don't have much to talk about. You can just say, I conducted this webinar with XYZ people. But how do you convert those into customers? So with TV, we have that where you can integrate it into your site. As you said, the live chat widget. So let's say somebody visits your website. What's the whole objective of somebody entering a store for the store owner? It's to make the purchase, to convert. But when people come and visit your website, what happens? I mean, they just visit and they drop off. They bounce off. Maximum, okay, if you're really, really lucky, you may get a contact form inquiry. Well, we are really optimistic. Nobody even knows which ID that contact form is connected to. Right? So many times people have that issue with WordPress also. I'm sure people can correlate. So, what we did there is we put in directly video chat. You click a button and you talk to sales or support from that chat widget. Of course, today a lot more companies are doing it. We did this 4 years ago. But today it's kind of coming to become a consolidated model for us. We look at, for example, the rooms concept. As I said, no more sending meeting ID 749-350-5734 and then some password and then links to and fro. That's, I think, the old way of doing video conferencing. The new way of video conferencing, see me in my room, right? It's as simple as that. Have up to 100, 120 people together in a conference. one click, no download. Most important, the moment you download an application, I believe you open up a big can of worms of security. Are they prying on my data? Are they snooping in my conversations? After I close the call, are they still processing data, in the background? We solve all of that by being browser based and saying you close the call, you're done, and that's hyper secure, right? So this, I think, is also very important. As I said, the live chat widget, TV, rooms, appointment scheduling. So a lot of people may use Calendly as an appointment scheduling tool. We love Calendly as well. But end of the day, I have to use Calendly with Zoom or with Meet, and it's not convenient. So we had VidPhone appointments where you merge appointment scheduling with a video link. So it's come to my email, boom, customer and the seller connect on a video link, have a wonderful, secure conversation, and then close the deal, right? So these are all new, I would say, digital business models or processes that are going to be the fundamentals of the new economy. And I'm happy to share a lot more things going forward. Vidshala, for example, yoga teachers, very, very important. I just share a minute on this very quickly.
Yeah.
We know the situation of tech or education in India today. And I think it's very, very sad. 1.5 billion students around the world today are without formal education going to school. Now, we look at the options and we say that, hey, here is all these large video conferencing companies, and schools use this unsecure tool. So just imagine a child who's in 5th or 6th standard, 5th grade, and you have this bad actor who comes and is flashing pornography and other vulgar material. Now, it scars that child for life. And we take that very, very seriously. Secondly, you have this issue of distraction. When a student is looking at all the other people on a screen, he's not really focusing on the teacher. But the thing here is that, one, we have what we call video authentication. Just like a school, you don't let anybody enter your school, right? So why should it be different in video learning? So we have pre-assigned students, assigned people with their photograph, and we run advanced video recognition algorithms to be able to detect and say that, hey, this is a person who belongs to this class, and only they can enter with video facial recognition. I think that's an incremental technology improvement that we did. We also said that only the teacher needs to see all the students. The students don't need to see everybody. They only need to see the teacher. And so we built out the entire platform with this kind of an interface where it's a lot more secure. Even if something happens, only the teacher who's being an adult is victim to that kind of display. And it does not happen to the students. And secondly, also, it works out a lot more cheaper for these teachers and organizations because there are lesser number of streams. So it's a lot more affordable for mass education. When it comes to rural or government schools, it has to penetrate every last mile today in India. And of course, we have automated test taking results. So teachers are really benefited where they don't need to sit and keep correcting every paper, right? You have multiple choice answers. And why should the teacher waste her time saying this is correct? Today with technology, all is automated. The moment I submit an answer, I know if it's right. And the teacher saves a lot of valuable time that they can use into other constructive activities. And we have a lot more things coming up on Vidshala, vidshala.com, Vidshaala, vidshala.com. Made in India product again, just like VidPhone, Atmanirbhar, and everything. So people should check it out. Any kind of teacher, tutor, we are welcoming all of you. Massive discounts, of course, goes without saying, because we believe in this mission. And I think India was a land of Nalanda and Taxila and really great universities. Today, we don't have those. IITs and IICs are the best. And these still are nowhere globally. Let's be honest about it. Your Harvards and MITs and Stanfords Whartons are way ahead of where we are. Can we rebuild these institutions, brick and mortar? We cannot. Can we try these in a digital first, video first world? Of course. And that's what we are looking forward to.
Fantastic. Jagat, I think what matters is also having the driven, powerful energy, because you can't give up ever, right? It's a day in, day out process. Okay, good. So I had kept some books aside to show to people.
Of course.
Yeah.
I too will just bring up.
Bring some of those. Yes, you must. So one is this one, deep work. I definitely believe in that. And we talked about trust. We talked about being a professional. So definitely Subrata Bagchi, great writer, one of the best. Shiv Khera, our very own global salesman, fantastic sessions, fantastic inputs about sales will never get boring. The founders to the entrepreneurs, I think we should aim to be really really good at what we do, because that's what matters. A good friend of mine, Subramani Subbu, time member, great sales workshops. I've been part of his workshops, worked with him in the sense that we do this volunteer pro bono workshops for founders, high energy, focused on sales, and building trust, building what really matters to the customer. So love all this kind of thing. Jagat, I just show a couple of quick things on my screen share. Okay, guys, just hang on.
And I got a bunch of stuff as well. So.
Yeah. I'm just showing a couple of things on my screen share, Jagat, with your permission, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I had spoken recently at with some of these Singapore startups, where we talked about the opportunities that is happening, and and just today we, by the way, happy Ganesh Chaturthi to everyone. Today is a festival for us, India, the land of lots and lots of festivals. So some of the things that I spoke to them about, and I think it makes a difference to all of us. When we're talking to our client, they definitely would also get a very the personal rapport. If you know a little bit more about them, and you're negotiating, that yes, but you should know who you're negotiating with, and having some respect for their education, for their personal backgrounds, that makes a very very big difference. And since it's going to be more and more about online interactions and product demos, you must get your digital game up. And to the founders, there's a lot of like, see, we do know that India is talking about the Make in India, Atmanirbhar, and there is a lot of focus around smart cities, agri-tech, health tech, ed tech, and so these kind of things. If you just go a little bit deeper and deeper into what is possible, I mean, I must give a shout out to what TIE does in its different chapters across the country. So TIE Hyderabad, TIE Delhi, TIE Bombay. There's a lot of fantastic things going on. Just approach and find out every single opportunity, programs that are being run. Look at the paid POCs also. Okay, and yeah, about, I think it's also important to like when you're creating your product or trying to sell, please do know about IP and know about the law as well, because many times we are trying to do things without getting too much understanding of how does IP work, how does the law work, what are the business laws that we have to follow in India and all the states, because it's different everywhere. So sales is also about that, not just having a product or a service, but also getting to know the nitty gritties. And yeah, you should do a lot of research work, okay? Because the better that you know your customers, easier it is for you to convince them to buy your product, and that is very very critical. And some of the basic things also, Jagat, being on time, not being late for meetings, those kind of things, unfortunately too many times we professionals forget about it, and that should not be the case. Okay, and that's how we are going. We have been rolling for an hour. I don't really, I thought we just started.
Very quickly, I want to share a
Yes,
couple of
yeah.
stuff. I have
Yes,
a lot more there.
please do.
One, of course, I do read a fair amount of business books, but I thought I'll just go a little bit off topic. Some books that kind of I really enjoy. Obviously, here's a book that really tells you about what Michio Kaku is thinking about, one of the most foremost scientists today, and how we look at the world. I think it plays a very important role. I love this book. It's called Living with the Gods by Neil MacGregor. Really wonderful. Talks about how civilization really came about, and how the future can be built. Freakonomics, I would recommend this to everybody. I know it's a little old, but if someone's not read Freakonomics, well, you should definitely read Freakonomics. It's just a really interesting way of looking at everyday stuff, and how things change.
Yeah.
Just a couple of books, maybe off context, more towards, I would say, philosophy and religion. Of course, I would recommend everybody to read the Upanishads. Extremely, what do you call, insightful. Like, I think the way that things are written, you would not find them in too many books, right? So I think Upanishads is very important to read, just to give you a worldwide understanding of, if anyone's into spirituality and understanding the self and some questions that you want to answer, it gives you a beautiful path. But I would say this is probably, just one of, this is the book, okay?
The
And
Arthashastra. Okay.
it it's written in 300 and odd BC. And if one looks at this book, it talks about the entire nation, Akhand Bharat or India, what we called at that time during the Mauryan Empire, huge piece of land from Afghanistan all the way down south till Bengal and beyond. Everything is so organized. Everything is written down for every kind of, and you will not believe that, why I like this book is because of the extent of detail that he's gone into. I think that's the beauty of it. You can go and ask a question, and very, very soon you will find him answering that, and that shows the genius of the author. So, and of course, other books. I love biographies, be it of Branson, Jobs. These are obviously people who inspire every businessman and entrepreneur. A lot of other stuff, but yeah, books we can just go on. So.
Yeah, awesome, super awesome. Hey, I got Akhil here online. Akhil, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Yes, hey, very well, Akhil. So just to let everyone know, Akhil is part of the team at Vidphone, the technology man, and I think we are also live today on the Facebook, isn't it? So anyone who wants to catch YouTube. YouTube. So we're live on YouTube, and anyone who wants to watch the video Vidphone stuff, all the beautiful programs we have done. I think this is our 12th episode around League of Extraordinary Startups. So just focusing on the startups, the founders, their insights. So Akhil, how does it feel to be a technology person who doesn't like to do sales? Just in case, I don't know why I'm asking you that question, but still. So how, so Akhil, when you're thinking of building the various, SDKs, the various products and everything at Vidphone, how important is to look at the end customer centric user experience, right? If you can give a very crisp overview on that, because when you and Jagat are talking, it's also about the customer experience. Like, why should they trust? Why should they use your product? So maybe a couple of minutes around that.
Yeah. So for the SDK specifically, since I also use a lot of SDKs, I know what makes a good SDK, what a good experience will be like. So I try to emulate good SDKs as much as I can. So features like ease of use, ease of integrating, like you don't want to read like documentation. Documentation is very important. You don't want to have like too much of steps to get something work. You want to do something quickly, and then you want to see results instantly. So for stuff like SDKs, that's what would be a good experience. And then for non-technical stuff, you try to place yourself in the user's shoes and then see what they would like, and then try to match that as closely as possible.
Okay, I like that. Place yourself in the user's shoes, because that's a core, right? I mean, you do that right and you get it right. Awesome, man. And how do you keep yourself going in this world of not meeting too many people at a time, but still getting the work done, product demos, sprint, iteration, whatever all this, whatever this technical jargon that you guys use to communicate? How does that work now?
So I'm quite a bit of an introvert. So I don't feel much difference between a pandemic and now. But there's lots of work, so I don't feel lonely or anything like that.
Awesome, super awesome. And I think what matters is that just keep working, stay fit, stay healthy, and life will get sorted out, right, Akhil?
Yes.
Awesome, man. Awesome. As always, a man of few words, but works very, very hard. And I must personally also thank you, because I am technologically challenged in many ways. I used to always reach out to him, Akhil, I'm stuck. What do I do? So then he calms me down. So don't worry, it'll all get sorted out. And then he'll help me to navigate this technology fields and but I get better one day. Thanks, Akhil. Much appreciated, my friend. Take care.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye.
We're happy to take any other questions also, I guess.
Yes. Like a lot of people, one of the things, Jagat, that people are asking is, look, okay, you're doing sales, you want to convert, but when do you give up? In the sense that you're chasing a few customers down, at some point of time, you got to take a break, because you should not be irritating the customer. So how does that work?
Yeah, I think, a really good book that I would also recommend to people is a book called Tribes by Seth Godin. Of course, a lot of people know Seth now, but I used to follow him back in 2004-05, when he was, he just went out of the VP of marketing, I think, at Yahoo. And he talks about permission marketing. Permission marketing is very important. Now, you have to take the person's consent before you start shoving marketing content at them. I really believe in this. So generally, we are only talking to people who have really clear inbound interest in what we're doing. We don't like to keep saying, hey, here's what we do, take our product, here's discount, sale. Well, we don't speak this language. We like to see, what do you want? And that's why the company, if Vidphone, of course, our product's called Every Crave. And Every Crave really is the fundamental. It's about needs. It's about what somebody wants. And until there is a clear indication that he wants to buy from you, don't sell to him. Till then, you're only marketing to him. I think you only start selling to him when you understand that there is qualification, you may call it, right? The customer qualification process.
Yeah.
So the moment you feel that, hey, he's not interested, or he doesn't have the money, or he's probably just shopping around, or, well, you need to probably know how to say goodbye. So I think that's difficult to put a T is equal to this time on it, but I think it's more of a qualitative thing. Obviously, as a salesperson, you heighten your senses. You know when the deal is instinctively whether it's going to happen or not. Right? Sometimes you build these traits. So, but for non people who don't have that kind of intuitive understanding, I would definitely say that if it doesn't pick up your call like 4 or 5 times, simple as that, you should probably stop bothering him.
Yeah.
But as we say with the flywheel, and we say with sales many times, no means there is never a permanent no. Right? Not today, but things may change.
Yeah. Keeps. I mean, I think it's important to.
Keep them in your view, add value, keep delivering value as much as possible. If they mark you spam, their problem. It's okay.
Be helpful, be supportive, and be a community and ecosystem. I think the word tribes that I got to. I think we all have to build on those principles, because let's look at what's happened in the rest of the world. I mean, the way Apple, Google, they have built communities. They do all these developer conferences, and they're amazing. Okay, I've been part of some of these sessions. Phenomenal quality, very, very nice sharing, and I think this is something that we have to learn. Why shouldn't we stop doing all these kind of things? Isn't it brilliant, Jagat? We have been at this for a little bit more than an hour. And I think it's we'll take a break. And thank you so much. Yeah, sure, please.
As we do, because Vidphone Universe and Tribes, it's kind of interlinked. And when you talk of the large companies, Google, Facebook, the communities, again, as I said, the community, the tribe development, I think, is a byproduct. It's the effect. The cause really is the value addition. So you look at Google, they do so many events for developers where first of all, it's free. Second, they do it consistently, and the value keeps going up, of the events and the quality. So I think these are the elements that build a wonderful tribe. So as I said, the tribe, just like a business, the revenue is the effect, not the cause. The cause is something else. So
Okay, superb. So never stop the hustle, but build value, bring the community together. And I think what we have been talking about is because look, I meet startups and founders all the time. We want to help them with customers, with investor connects, with tools, with the resources that can help them to grow. And that's the mission of life. And that's what TiE also stands for. And it's it's amazing to have friends, the ecosystem. I mean, NASSCOM is there, brilliant folks out there. I'm a volunteer at Headstart also, Jagat. So there also we are trying to do a lot of things for the founders and come together. I've been part of co-working spaces like Beehive. They're also working. Shesh and his team, brilliant folks. And we should not stop, right? I mean, like it's the God's grace, a lot of good things coming our way and to everyone's way. We will strive to succeed, and we don't ever give up. Okay, let's be there for each other, guys and folks. And thank you. It's a wonderful session, or the 12th session, by the way, Jagat. Even I didn't know how of the League of Extraordinary Startups. And
kudos to you.
Nice. Trying one tries the best. Okay. And Jagat, we should be also looking at coming together because of those knowledge sessions that we want to do. Very focused sessions, using the Vidshala concept and other things that you're talking about, because I would be very interested to take these things forward. Even basics, term sheets, building a good pitch deck, diagnostics around your websites, diagnostics about sales, and some of these things. I think we should never stop getting better and better in improving. A shout out to all the folks who have been here: Sham, Prasad, Kaushik, Lalita, Gaurav, Punjabi, good friends. And awesome people. We would love to stay in touch and be part of the conversations. Let's all come together. And thank you so much, Jagat. It's been a delight and a pleasure as well.
Absolutely wonderful. Thanks to everybody, and thanks to you, Vijay.
Oh, not at all, sir. The pleasure is all mine. We just had Mohammed, who's just joined in. Hi, Mohammed. How are you doing? And if anyone still wants to join in the conversation, I've enabled this raise hand. You can actually, like how I took Akhil on call, I can just get you guys on call to say hello, okay? But
ask any questions.
Ask any questions. Make it live. yeah, join in the conversation and say some good things. And we also have Chirag, who's from the Vidphone team as well, a young boy who's great, and of course a lot of good work around. I like the creatives also, by the way. The graphics at Vidphone are pretty cool. I think you guys have got a quirky creative sense also, so that's pretty nice. Okay,
Well, we always
and
like some satire and fun.
yes, 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 and Jagat, we must build that volunteer community as well because there's
Yeah,
so much of information and resources. See, there are a lot of course, see, for example, Jagat, you have definitely benefited a bit from the NASCOM various programs, and you have been part of, many other initiatives, accelerators. You are in touch with investors. So why shouldn't we share some of these resources with like-minded and good quality people? That will make a big difference as well, doesn't it, Jagat? And and I think, Jagat, you also have to give some nice simple blogs. You should share about some of these presentations, but convert into video. Okay, whatever you're
yeah,
doing,
no,
you should convert that into video. Yeah, and then put it onto the YouTube channel of Vidphone, or on Vidphone you shoot it and then you push it out there. I think that will make a big difference to the community of founders, because we don't need 1,000 or 2,000 or even 10,000 entrepreneurs. We need millions of entrepreneurs in India, and I think that's the only way that we can grow the country and the community. And we are getting some, so Prashant and Sham have said hello to each other and to us, and they've just sent a thank you note. Thank you, Sham. Thank you, Prashant. And let's stay connected, guys. Hey, Jagat, you should give your email ID. Sorry, I didn't think of that.
Jagat
Type your
and
email. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You should, yeah, just share your email ID here.
I'm
I mean, I
available.
should, yeah. And of course, I mean, I'm on LinkedIn as well. Okay. Yeah, so I think I think that's important, isn't it? LinkedIn is a crucial way to make people follow and see things, and of course that YouTube channel also of Vidphone is nice. So even time we're trying to put in as many quality videos as possible. Vidphone, of course, is more fun and all that. We are a little bit more serious, but that's how it is.
We just make it look funny. But I think, yeah,
Yeah,
again,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, but I
yeah,
guess thank you so much once again, Jagat. It's been a pleasure and delight. Thank you to our wonderful folks out there. A shout out. Let's keep rocking. Happy festivals. Happy Ganesh Chaturthi. Enjoy the weekend. And let's connect anytime. Thank you.
thank you.
Take care. Cheers.